speakers are Ben Towill and Chef Charlie Layton, and they are taking a departure from the world they live in, restaurants, to go on an adventure in the wilderness, on the water, wilderness, it's all the same, right? And they're going to tell us all about what they have coming up and how we can support them. So let's give it up for our speakers, Ben and Charlie.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing?
Hi, guys. So it's quite difficult to see these slides, so you're going to have to have a lot of imagination. I'll describe them. Okay, so firstly, thank you guys for all being here. Thank you to Creative Mornings for having us. Doing a journey like I'm about to tell you about it takes 2 years. And everyone always asks, how will you feel after the row? What will it feel like? This journey started a year and a half ago. And one of the most important things and amazing things that's happened is the community that we've begun to build with the Dreamboats and the people that we've met. And this is just another incredible opportunity for us. And so thank you. Okay, so wilderness, I feel this fits the bill. We're the Dreamboats. And in 185 days, Charlie and myself will row the Atlantic Ocean. That's 50 days plus or minus at sea, up to 30-foot waves, 600 hours each rowing, 2 hours on, 2 hours off, 24 hours a day. It's dubbed the world's toughest race, and that's the reason why. So I'm going to get you to, can you snap those?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. So the first people to row the Atlantic, this has been done before, was a gentleman called Frank Samuelson and George Hutto. And in 1896, these two lunatics rowed from New York to the Scilly Isles, just off the coast of Cornwall, where Charlie and I are from. It took them 50 days, and they did it in an open top rowing boat. So, although the boats have changed, the sport has come a long way since then. Still less than 1,000 people in history have ever rowed an ocean. So more people have been to space, more people have been up Everest than have taken on the challenge that Charlie and I will take on. And there will be a point in January of next year where Charlie and I will be in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, 1,500 miles from where we set off and 1,500 miles from our destination. And the closest thing to us will be the International Space Station, apart from other ships. So we will really be out there alone.
That is definitely the definition of wilderness. So the race we're competing in is called the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge. It's a completely unsupported and unassisted rowing race. So we're going to get all our supplies with us and head off. There's no support vessel following us. It's a 3,000-mile row from La Gomera in the Canary Islands to Antigua in the Caribbean. So that's 3,000 nautical miles, and to put that into perspective, that would be the same as taking a boat from LA, rowing all the way across the country to Charleston, and then heading due south and rowing all the way down to Miami. So it's pretty far. I mean, that sounds exhausting on an aeroplane, let alone rowing a boat. So how do we get here? Now, like all good English stories, it started down the pub. The pub in question was the Ferryboat Inn in Helford Passage, which is a small village in rural Cornwall. It's a 17th century pub, and I was the head chef. Ben's brother Alex is actually the owner of the pub, and that's how we met. And the pub actually sponsor us as well, which is awesome. Honestly, I can barely recognize the guy in this picture. I was a big old boy living the pub lifestyle. Every English pub chef will tell you, oh yeah, you know, you finish work, you have a couple of pints. I was beers, kebabs and cigarettes at any given moment. The guy there looks like he could barely row across a puddle, let alone an ocean. I knew I needed to make some changes, so I started thinking about where I could kickstart a healthy lifestyle. And I mean, where does one go to kickstart a healthy lifestyle? I was thinking maybe the home of barbecue, fried chicken, shrimp and grits. I moved to Charleston, South Carolina. I landed here in 2018 to work at Basic Kitchen, and our tagline at Basic is cleaner fuel, longer adventures. So I figured I'd start living the lifestyle. Ben gifted me the company car, Peggy the bicycle, which you can see here on the left, and I started riding everywhere, every day. I started with 10 miles a week, and then 20 miles, 30 miles. Eventually I was riding over 100 miles a week. I was living better, and I was working better, and through work I was eating better. I had like a whole new approach to food. And guys, I can't believe we've got this far in this presentation, and I haven't done what all vegans do. I'm vegan. We can be annoying sometimes. This all came about because we run a plant-based challenge every year at Basic Kitchen. Every January, we do a plant-based menu, and we encourage people to just try giving up meat for a little bit. I figured if I was preaching it, I should practice it, and I haven't really looked back. In the 4 years I've lived here, I've lost 130 pounds, which is like insane.
Yeah, that's a round of applause. Come on.
I'm in the best physical and mental shape that I've ever been in, and for me, the proof really is in the plants.
That's a hard act to follow, Charlie. I'm just a little about me. I'm Ben. I'm the co-owner of Basic Projects. So we have the Post House, we have Basic Kitchen, and then we have Sullivan's Fish Camp. Most importantly, I'm a father of two, and no stranger to a challenge. I think Charlie mentioned in a project most similar to this that I've done in wilderness themed was in 2015. I rode my bicycle from Virginia to Oregon with my wife Kate, who's here, and her brother Patrick, who's a photographer, and we're writing an op-ed for the New York Times about food systems, positive food stories in the US. So we'd go and seek out people doing cool things with food and spend the night with them and write stories about them. So that was a fantastic experience. Clearly, sitting on a beach is not my thing. My wife tells me every day I am a very intense character, so I'm sorry, Charlie, for this 50-day excursion on a boat together. So how do you go from running restaurants to wanting to row an ocean? And you know, how it started for us, we both had friends that have actually done this race. Myself in 2013, I got an email from a guy and it said, I just rode the Atlantic. And I thought, no bloody way did that guy row the Atlantic Ocean. And I started looking at it, and he did. And he had this wild experience that I was just captivated by. He had the worst weather in the history of this race. 2013 was the roughest year weather-wise. They had 3 very large low-pressure systems. And then Charlie had a great friend do it in 2018, and he was captivated by it and had also seen a documentary about this row in the UK. So Charlie and I are sitting down at a 6-month review, and we're going through his questionnaire that he's filled out, and one of the questions is, where do you see yourself in 2 years? And Charlie, I was thinking he might say, you know, second Basic Kitchen, or running my own restaurant, or instead he said, rowing the Atlantic by the time I'm 30. And I was like, oh my God, this is the best news ever. I found another madman, because it's hard to find people who want to do this. So we immediately stopped the meeting. bonus. You nailed it, Charlie. And we went across the street to the Restoration Hotel, and we signed up for the race. And the Dreamboats project was born. And I'm just going to give you a little story about signing up for the race, because when you take something like this on, it's really easy to talk about doing something. To do this requires an unbelievable amount of persistence, because no one does this. Like, you can't call someone up and say, you know, I'm doing that, how do I start? So when we said we want to sign up for the race, the lady said, you can't get in, COVID's happening, all the contestants from 1 year have been pushed back, you can't do it till 2024. And we're like, no way, we're ready to do it now. So I emailed this lovely lady, Nikki, who, it's a very small team, who runs something called the Atlantic Campaigns. We emailed her every other day for about a month. And eventually she said, fine, you guys can do it, because this sort of persistence is what you need to row an ocean. So as a lesson in people, if you want to do something and someone says no to you, just keep tapping them on the shoulder. And eventually they'll say, fine, come on. So that's what Nikki did. So So when we began this project, Charlie and I had zero rowing experience. Neither of us had ever stepped foot in a rowing boat. So we needed to find someone to teach us to row. So I don't know if you can see here, but we Googled Charleston Rowing Club, and a gentleman by the name of Rando Blythe, who I'm sad is not here tonight, but is a wonderful guy, and if anyone wants to learn how to row, I fully I suggest you go and find him. But I rang Rando up and I said, Rando, my name's Ben Towill, and I want to row the Atlantic. Thinking, I don't know what this guy's going to say that, and I have no rowing experience. Rando responded with, I've been waiting my whole life for this phone call. And he's a passionate open water rower, and so it was incredible. So once we got comfortable on the water, in our little rowing boats going out of Shim Creek, it seemed like a long way to go to Patriots Point, and then we went a little bit further and a little bit further. This is about a year and a half ago. We quickly realized the next thing you need is a boat. And an ocean rowing boat, they're not easy to come by. So we, the gentleman who makes them is a guy called Charlie Pitch. He's the world record holder for the solo Atlantic crossing, formerly the world record holder. And he makes these boats in Essex in the UK. So enter Polly-Ann. Polly-Ann is a R25. She was specially built for us in Essex. And she's named after our grandmothers, Polly and Anne. And we're very fond of her. We think she's perfect.
So with the boat being built, we realized we had to get strong. And I think everyone here can agree the most boring thing you can do at a gym is sit on a rowing machine. It is honestly mind-numbing. When we started, we could barely row for 12 minutes, and now we row for 2 hours at a time, like minimum, sometimes longer. And honestly, I challenge anyone to just go and sit on a rowing machine for 2 hours, and you kind of get the experience of having to then work at it. It's horrible. We also wanted to get mentally strong, and so we signed up for an event called 29029, which takes place all over the country, but we flew out to Utah. 29029 is an awesome event. It's known as Everesting. So we climbed the equivalent height of Everest over 36 hours. We actually did it in 27 hours because Ben decided we should do it with no sleep to see how we can cope under a little bit of fatigue. Hopefully we weren't going to murder each other, and luckily we actually had a great time. It was a lot of silence on the drive back to the airport afterwards, but I think we're still good friends. There's a big saying in ocean rowing as well. It's that the hardest part of this whole campaign is actually getting to the start line. And you have to get there fully funded with all the gear and equipment, and it really does take a lot. It's going to cost us around 200 grand in total to get our boat built, shipped to Charleston, then shipped back to La Gomera. So it's going all over the country. She's done a couple of Atlantic crossings already, although albeit in a container. And we actually found some amazing people here in Charleston. Some of our sponsors decided to jump on board and help us fund this part of our row. So we got fully funded. I think the date was March when the boat arrived. We had actually secured all our funding to do the race with all our gear and supplies. So it's been an awesome journey, and we want to thank all our sponsors so far. When Polly-Ann arrived, this was like, honestly, I've never felt more like a kid in a candy shop because she was delayed for 2 months, and the global shipping industry has been through it in the last couple of years. So we had 2 months of waiting, and then she finally arrives, but she looked a bit more like a British beachgoer with an English tan than a racing ocean rowing boat. So luckily we teamed up with a graphic wizard and a really good friend of ours, Blake Suarez, and he designed an awesome wrap for Polly-Ann. So here she is outside Basic Kitchen in all her new threads, and you can see all our sponsors' logos adorning the side. It's really, really a sight to behold. But also, if you just look closely, there is a lot of space left on that boat. So I'm just saying.
Okay, so next, we have this incredible rowing boat. We're sort of getting on our journey. We probably have a year left to go, and we have absolutely no idea how to use this thing. There's certain systems that are so specifically built for this type of race, this type of boat. So we had all the gear and no idea. And so the next thing we needed was someone to teach us how to ocean row, be offshore, get comfortable offshore on this boat, get comfortable with the boat capsizes, cooking on it, eating on it, sleeping on it. So enter Duncan Roy. And Duncan Roy is a ocean rowing legend, and he's our rowing coach. Duncan is a world record holder. He's rowed the Atlantic twice. He's rowed the Pacific Ocean once, and recently rowed around Britain. So Duncan came over here this spring. He spent 7 days with us, probably the most intense 7 days I've ever experienced. The man does not sleep. He was teaching us all the necessary navigation, skills, drills, but he knew he only had 6 days with us. So I think he was staying at our house. I think Kate saw him once. And it was absolutely incredible. So Duncan will be with us. So for example, next week we'll be offshore for 24, 36 hours. I think we're going to row from Hilton Head back to Charleston on Monday night. And we'll be in touch with Duncan in the UK. We'll give him our route. We'll do some weather planning. He'll advise on certain issues. If we have issues at sea, we have a satellite phone, and we'll be communicating with him. You know, inevitably, everyone gets seasick in these boats at the beginning. Totally normal. They say the first 5 days of this particular race is the hardest. So when you go out rowing for 24 hours, or if we go for 48 hours, as you begin to sleep, because you have to sleep during that time, that's when the nausea and seasickness kicks in. So the more time you spend out there with this 24-hour, 48-hour period, the better for those first 5 days of the race. So we get asked 3 questions. We do lots of these, we're always trying to tell anyone who'll listen about the dream boats. And so we've been at lots of events around town, the bridge run, the tennis. We're going to be at the Charleston Battery Soccer. And everyone asks 3 questions. They say, what do you do in a storm? What do you eat? And where do you go to the toilet? Those are the 3 things that everyone asks. So I'm going to just ask this. So what do we do in a storm? So in a storm, which will happen, our boat can self-right. And we are tethered at all times to the boat. It's highly likely it'll happen at least once. But we put out a parachute anchor, which is an enormous parachute that sits below the water. When we know a storm's coming, we prepare for it because we have weather routers. And then Charlie and I get really cozy, and you can hardly see it, but our cabin is a cabin for one. And we cuddle up together in there, and we put our parachute anchor out, and then we just ride out the storm together. And our boat, as I said, can self-right, and it's basically like a cork. So that's what we do in a storm. What do we eat? So Charlie told you he was a vegan. Charlie is inspiring me and a lot of people to, what he's doing, the way he's eating and the way he's performing. Like, I'm trailing Charlie in every single metric you can possibly measure on. So I'll be following in Charlie's footsteps, but I will be selling him jerky in my 1,500 miles. So we eat about 6,000 calories a day. It's all freeze-dried camping food, lots of high-calorie snacks. We have a desalinator, so we can produce water, which is solar-powered. And so we rehydrate the food that way. Luckily, Charlie's head of catering, so I think we're gonna eat well. And then lastly, where we go to the bathroom, so it's an ensuite bathroom, but it's still a bucket, and it's on deck, and there's no door, and you're looking at one another. I'll leave it at that.
That's honestly the most daunting thing, I think. So you've heard all this and you think, what is this lunacy? Why are these guys doing it? And we actually have a really great reason to be doing this. We are aiming to raise $300,000 for the Green Heart Project, which is based here in Charleston. It's an organization we know and love. We've been working with them for 4 years through the restaurants, and we're just so stoked to be working with them because we believe in their mission. If you don't know the Green Heart Project, they go into public schools and they build urban farms. They get kids out of the conventional classroom to learn hands-on where food comes from, the effect it has on us, and the effect it has on the environment. With the funds that we're raising, we want to help Green Heart become the standard bearer for outdoor education in the entire United States. We want to help inspire the future generation, the kids of today, to know, love, and celebrate food and where it comes from. So with the help of people like you, we're going to reach that target and really fly the flag for Green Heart and for Charleston as a foodie city. Like, there are 1,000 restaurants in Charleston, I'm sure. It's countless, and to get from the ground up to really inspire people to want to work with food, the Green Heart, there's no other people that can do it better than Green Heart.
Well said. Okay, so finally, Charlie and I are standing up here, and we haven't done anything yet. We've just talked about it, we're excited to come back and talk once we've done it. But I just sort of give a shout out to it really takes a village to do something like this, and so I just want to thank the people who are helping us, and it's a pretty large group. We've got 2 guys helping us on the physical side, and we train 5-6 days a week. We have Duncan in the UK who's helping us on the rowing side. We have all the basic projects team who, like, after hours work on this project and the logistics and how do we raise funds, how do we get a boat, how do we do this. Our families, my wife and kids, there's a lot of 4 a.m. wake ups, and Kate, I'm going to be away for 2 months, and we have 2 young children, a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. So it's just an amazing group of people who are helping us. Kat and the Birdhouse team, it's incredible. So I just want to say a big thank you for that. And anyone who wants to take on a big project, get a really good team of people around you. Don't try and do it on your own. You'd be amazed by how many people want to be involved in stuff outside of just their everyday life that's going to change the direction of their life, that's going to bring them to things like Creative Mornings. You're going to just, the only way nothing changes if nothing changes is what we say at our house. And like, when you take on something like this, doors open up that you didn't even think were possible. So to all those people who are helping open up those doors, I just want to say a big thank you. And then lastly, thank you guys for listening. We're so thrilled to get to tell you about this project. We're looking forward to doing it and coming and telling you about the adventures that we had. And we'll take some questions. You can follow along on dreamboat.us. That's our website and Instagram handle. It has all the links there. And as we're racing, you'll be able to track us where we are. So on Christmas Day, I urge everyone, as they're about to have their 3rd glass of red wine, where are the boys? And you can look. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Borrow this for a sec. Thank you so much. It's clear you guys have a lot of love and respect for one another, and we can't wait to follow along with your adventure and share it with our followers. And I hope all of us can donate to Green Heart Project. But don't go anywhere.
Okay.
The audience, I'm sure, has a ton of questions. I especially do. I know a ton of people. I'm a sailor who have sailed across the Atlantic, like my husband, and that was scary. But so yeah, you guys in this little boat with no sails, and it's going to be amazing though, and I can't wait to follow along. But the challenge ahead, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think if the question is sort of about fear, we get a lot. Like, are you afraid? And I think you of course, you have to be afraid of something like this, but it's another sort of rule in life. If you just put the work in, you understand your boat, you get out there like we are next week and the week after, and you experience these conditions, you kind of minimize, like, that fear becomes less and less. But inevitably, when we are about to set off and we lose sight of land in those first few days, I mean, we're going to say, what the hell are we doing?
Well, we have all the confidence in you, and I know that you have all the tools in front of you to make you successful. So who has a question, just shout it out, and these guys will answer you.
Yeah, you want to?
Yeah, we have been so lucky. When we started this project, we did a launch event at Ethos Athletic, and this guy turns up with a camera, and he's like, I've heard about what you're doing. I want to film a documentary. His name's Zach Thompson, Verity Films, and he has been following us for the last almost a year now. Like, he's getting up at 4:30 in the morning with us to go to the gym and film all of that and get out on the water. And he's planning to set the boat up with a few timed cameras, so we're going to capture some stuff on the ocean, and when we can, we're going to film parts. We don't want to promise anything, because obviously being that fatigued and kind of definitely grouchy in the midpoint, I don't know if I'm going to be able to put my camera face on and get some nice shots. But we are aiming to have a full documentary, a 40-minute documentary filmed, and we'll be premiering it when we get back in Charleston.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a BBC documentary. I think it was 2004 or 2005. It's called Hell or High Water. It's about a British Olympic rower, James Cracknell, and a TV personality called Ben Fogle that took part in the race, like I said, in 2005. And it was a 6-part documentary on their build-up and then their crossing. I think I was 11 when I saw it, and I was a little bit obsessed. I've seen it like 3 or 4 times. It was one of those things where you see it and you're like, that's really cool, I want to do that. But when you're 12, you want to do a lot of things. So it got put on the back burner, and it wasn't until 2018 when my friend did it that I was like, yeah, I can do it.
When is the date of the race?
Yeah, so we'll set off December 12th, and we'll hopefully arrive in Antigua around 50 days later.
What's the best way to support your cause?
Yes, best way to support the cause. So I think if you go on the website or on Instagram, there's a link to everything: the documentary, the Green Heart giving page, and so that's the best way. And another way, good question, Kat. It's just if you can share this. People don't believe us when we tell them, so we have to have slides and it has to be official. So yeah, please share this story with them, and we'd love that.
And also just following us along on Instagram. We're going to be doing so many activations around the city over the next 6 months. We've got some big things planned for like a 24-hour row. We're going to be at all of our restaurants with the boat, so you can come and see Pollyann. And honestly, when you see it, it's like, okay, this is very real now. So yeah, just follow us along and just turn up to some of our events. It's going to be a really good time over the next 6 months, and we'd love to see you all there.
You're already celebrating with King Duck.
That's a good question. We
That's
haven't got
the best
that far
question.
yet. Yeah, I think when we get to Antigua, we'll probably want some time apart,
Or not, and that could be the worrying thing.
and a good meal, and then I think a holiday.
I honestly always make the joke that I just really wanted to go to Antigua, so I figured I'd row there.
To date, what is the hardest thing that either of you have done?
It's a good.
That's a really good question. I think for me, deciding like on not a whim, but very impulsively moving to a new country with not a lot of forethought. It was just like, here's this offer, let's do it. And I thought it was going to be easy. I'd lived in Australia before and in Germany and kind of traveled a lot, but I didn't really think of how hard it was to come to America, because I thought it was going to be really similar to the UK. And it is similar in some ways, but honestly, guys, it is a whole world of difference, especially in the restaurant industry. It's like a whole new world.
Yeah. Two parts to that. Hardest thing physically, I think, was probably ride my bike across the country. I was so unprepared. I threw up on the first day, and then the last 2 years navigating COVID in the hospitality business. We opened this restaurant during COVID. It was ready to open on March 18th, and we have a pretty big team, and just learning a lot about people, life, and customers and team members. So yeah, the last 2 years, it has been a great preparation for us this year. Any other questions?
What's something surprising that you're going to pack besides?
So we've talked about. I suppose again, another saying is a happy boat's a fast boat. So I think I'm in charge of the New Year's Eve party, and it's going to be like a Burning Man themed glow deal, and Charlie's going to get an invite and everything, and then you're in charge of Christmas. So
Yeah, I'm really sorry, mate. I'm actually busy on New Year's Eve.
So yeah, we're going to do little fun things like that. Like we're going to Christmas, we'll decorate the boat, and Charlie's in charge of that, and we'll have some crackers and stuff. And I'm going to have a full-blown party on New Year's Eve.
It's funny because I want to take Christmas as like you dress your house up for Christmas and you want to have all the lights. We're going to do that in the middle of the Atlantic, so it's going to be.
You'll
sorry,
see
bring the
pictures.
surprise. Yeah, that's definitely going to be Instagram to say.
Can you talk to your families at all, or only on the tractor, like can they only see you
Yeah.
on the tractor?
So you can. And this is something we talked about with. We're working with the team on the sort of mental preparation side, because this is the hardest thing about this is it's a mental challenge. It's physical that goes out the window after like 4 days because you're absolutely screwed physically. Just because you imagine rowing 12 hours a day and do that for 5 days. At the end of it, you're like, oh God, I just need a break. And you can't. So it's a mental challenge. So one of the things is how do you communicate with people, family members, and I think we're going to do that once a week, or we're going to have some structure around that, because there's no point ringing someone when you're feeling terrible and like, oh, I want to get off the boat, and Kate's here and thinking like, get off the boat. I'm drowning over here with 2 kids. So nothing's gained in that communication. So I think you have to set some pretty hard and fast rules. And a lot of the communication will be through a sort of, where you're going to have someone here who we do communicate with, or someone in the UK daily, or 2-3 times a day, and they can help like push back on us. So we set very clear mission statements before we leave, and we're working on that right now, because everyone wants to give up, right? So you have to go back to that point when you're sitting at home drinking a beer and you wrote down, I am going to do this no matter what happens, and then that person has to read it back to you. Remember when we sat down at the table and you said, I know I'm going to be here on day 10. I know I'm going to be here on day 20. So we're going to revisit all those things. So when we do want, or if we're having an issue with which we will, and we want to kill each other, we might as well plan for that now. Saying like, we know that, I mean, you're going to be so tired, hallucinating, sores. You know, let's discuss how we're going to handle that now, and not get into it and be like, I hate you.
I guess you could travel with some letters from loved ones, right? And open one
That is
day
a
or
great
something.
idea.
Yeah, that is definitely something that I've already spoken to all my friends back home and asked for a playlist and a postcard from all my friends. So it's like, on one day I'll listen to their music and I'll be able to read their postcard, and then I'll be rowing for them, and hopefully I'm going to have enough people. Fingers crossed we don't go over 50 days, because for my friends this is very
I
short.
don't have 50 friends.
How many other teams are competing? And were you guys like in coordination or talking with them at all? Or is it truly just fan?
Yeah.
It's really funny. So this year is the largest this race has ever been. Normally there's around 25 to 30 boats, and this year there's 45 boats. We all set off on a staggered timing, so the likelihood of us seeing another boat is slim to basically impossible. Last year's race, it happened for the first time, and it was only because of a big weather system when they were reaching Antigua. So I think they were 25 miles off the coast of Antigua when they saw each other. So it's really 2 guys in a boat just going. We'll probably run into some other vessels. A lot of the time you get sailors coming across at the same time, because it's the optimum time for trade winds. So there's been a few people that have met like sailing boats or cargo ships, and kind of you jump on the VHF at any given moment to try and talk to someone that's not your teammate.
As kind of one thing that's been happening, and we've been planning for it. The last 2 years, I think with the pandemic, there's been several marlin attacks on the boats, like marlin strikes, and they've actually pierced the hulls as you get closer to Antigua. So 2 years ago there was 3, or yeah, 3.
I think it was 2 years before. 2 years ago
Never.
there had been none. 2 years ago there were 3, and then last year I think was 2 or 3 again.
And we're not sure why it's happening. So Charlie and I actually get working with a company here to line our boat with Kevlar in the sleeping quarters, because they've been just ramming the hulls. So we have a whole kit. If this happens, that we can patch the boat up at sea. But that's just something I thought is a real thought at the moment.
One more question. Go ahead.
And we also didn't mention that we are racing, and if anyone's been a boat owner, you know that you get build up on the bottom of your boat, barnacles. We actually have to get out in the middle of the ocean and get underneath and scrub it down, because it actually reduces our speed by quite a lot. So it's like a weekly task that one of us has to jump in with a scuba mask and get underneath. Yeah,
100%. It's rock, paper, scissors all the way there.
Does anyone have one more question for these guys?
Is there prize money at the end? Or
Just a certificate that said you rode the Atlantic.
And the race is sponsored by Talisker Whiskey, so the winners get a bottle of scotch.
Yeah, it's not for the money.
Well,
Thank you so much,
Thank
everyone.
you very much, guys.
thank you. That was amazing. I mean, you guys lifted our spirits today. You're so engaging, and we're just honored that you shared your story with us, and we're excited to follow along. Wow. That makes you want to like get up and do something today, huh? Yeah. So we just have a few sponsors to thank. Again, I want to thank the Basic Projects team, especially Eva and everyone here on site who helped set things up. I want to thank Kat Taylor from Birdhouse PR for helping to coordinate everything, Tara with Daisy, Audrey with Counterculture. And I also want to tell you, Counterculture is doing a public event once a month, so you can get back into the space on Spring Street. It's called Shift Drink, and it's the final Friday of every month. The next one is the 24th of June. And they create a specialty drink, brewed coffee, espresso, and it's free, but you give a donation and it goes to a local nonprofit. So follow along and go support Counterculture and tell them that Creative Mornings sent you. And yeah, if you want to join our team, we're looking for a few volunteers. I think I found a few of you here today. So just DM us on Instagram if you want to be a part of the community and the Creative Mornings team. And we'll see you next month, July 22nd. So have a great Friday, and thanks again for coming.